The nightmare begins with a silent phone call from an unknown number, vibrating against the wooden table. I stare at the screen, heart hammering, until I finally press the glowing green icon to answer. A chilling message greets me, delivered in my own voice, stating that 3 days are left now. I dismiss it as a cruel, elaborate prank, tossing the device aside as if it were burning coal. Yet, the reality of the phenomenon becomes undeniable as victims are found dead exactly 72 hours later. They lie in their homes, showing no signs of struggle or any trace of physical trauma whatsoever. Authorities are baffled by the complete lack of digital footprints left behind by these impossible phantom calls. The signals leave no trace on telecommunications networks, defying every known law of modern electronic signal transmission. Recordings of the event turn up blank to everyone but the intended target, who hears everything clearly. The terror escalates when a desperate man manages to slow down the audio of his own call. He discovers a non-human entity counting down in the background, accelerating the timeline of his inevitable demise. The static-filled recording reveals a guttural, inhuman cadence that seems to vibrate through the very floorboards. He realizes the countdown is not a warning, but a cold, inevitable march toward a preordained end. Every silent ring now acts as a harbinger of death that cannot be outrun or ignored today. The public is gripped by a paralyzing fear, watching their devices as if they were ticking bombs. I look at my phone again, wondering if the silence is merely a pause before the end. The air in the room feels heavy, thick, with the weight of a countdown I cannot stop. My own voice, distorted and hollow, echoes in my memory, repeating the finality of the 3 days. There is no escape from the digital ghost that has marked me for its own dark purpose. I try to disconnect the battery, but the screen remains lit with a faint, ghostly, pulsing light. The network connection icon flickers, despite the phone being completely severed from any external cellular service provider. It is a parasitic connection, feeding on the dread that now consumes every waking moment of life. I walk to the window, watching the city lights flicker in a rhythm that mimics the heartbeat. Is this the same rhythm the entity uses to track its prey through the vast digital void? The silence of the apartment is broken only by the sound of my own shallow, ragged breathing. I am waiting for the next ring, a sound that will signal the start of the final. The technology has become a weapon, turning our own voices against us in a cruel cosmic joke. Every person in this city is now a potential target, living under the shadow of the unknown. We are all connected by a thread that is fraying, ready to snap at the slightest touch. I close my eyes, but the voice remains, etched into my mind like a brand of fire. The calls have become increasingly rare, leaving a vacuum of silence that feels far more dangerous. Perhaps people have simply stopped speaking, terrified that their own voices might betray their hidden locations. Witnesses whisper of something far worse than the initial call, a phenomenon that defies all logic. They claim that just moments before the final breath, the phone begins to ring once again. It is the same call, the same tone, and the same chilling promise of an approaching end. Even if you refuse to answer, the sound permeates the room, vibrating through the very air. Your own voice begins to manifest, not from the speaker, but from the shadows behind you. It is a haunting, spectral presence that follows you, whispering the countdown into your cold ears. The realization hits with the force of a physical blow, leaving me paralyzed in the dark. This is not a warning intended to save anyone, but a cruel reminder of the inevitable. The countdown is a tether, pulling the victim closer to a fate that cannot be avoided. I stare at the blank wall, wondering if the shadow is already standing right behind me. My hands tremble as I reach for the device, feeling the cold plastic bite into skin. The screen remains dark, yet the room feels crowded with the weight of unseen, watching eyes. Every shadow in the corner of my vision seems to stretch and contort into human shapes. I can hear a faint, rhythmic scratching against the wallpaper, like nails dragging on dry wood. Is it the entity, or is it merely the manifestation of my own crumbling, fractured sanity? The phone screen suddenly illuminates, casting a sickly, pale blue light across my terrified face. There is no number displayed, only the word "you," glowing with an intense, malevolent red hue. I know that if I listen, I will hear the final countdown echoing in my soul. The silence in the room is shattered by a ring that sounds like a funeral bell. I must not answer, for the act of listening is the final seal on my fate. The voice is already here, whispering from the corners, growing louder with every passing second. I drop the phone, but it does not shatter. It simply lies there, pulsing with light. The countdown is accelerating, the numbers blurring into a singular, high-pitched and piercing electronic shriek. I cover my ears, but the sound is internal, vibrating deep within the marrow of bones. There is no escape from the voice that belongs to me, yet seeks to destroy me. The screen flickers one last time, displaying the final digit before the light fades away. Darkness swallows the room, leaving me alone with the sound of my own fading breath. The call is finished, but the silence that follows is the loudest sound I have heard. As the nightmare spreads, the threat shifts from a digital intrusion to a physical manifestation of dread. People have stopped answering their phones, desperately hoping to sever the connection to the malevolent entity. Yet, the heavy, suffocating silence offers no sanctuary from the encroaching shadow that stalks their every step. Witnesses report that in the final, agonizing moments, the phone rings even if it is powered off. The device vibrates against cold surfaces, a phantom signal pulsing with the rhythm of a dying heart. The voice no longer comes from the speaker, but emanates from directly behind them in the dark. A cold breath brushes against their neck, carrying the weight of 1,000 unspoken, terrifying final words. The realization dawns that the voice is not a recording of the past, but a cruel projection. It is a projection of one's own final breath, stolen and twisted into a herald of doom. This chilling sound serves as a reminder that the countdown is truly inescapable and entirely horribly absolute. The boundary between the technology and the victim has dissolved into a singular, terrifying point of contact. Every screen flickers with static, reflecting the hollow eyes of those who know their time has expired. Panic ripples through the streets, yet there is no one left to call for help or salvation. The city lights seem to dim, bowing to the encroaching pressure of an unseen, ancient, hungry force. Victims stare into the void, wondering if the voice is truly their own or a parasitic echo. It is a parasite, claiming their life, feeding on the terror that blooms in the quiet night. If your phone rings tonight with no caller ID, you know the game has already been lost. The only certainty is that the countdown has already begun, ticking away the seconds of your life. There is nowhere left to hide from the sound that follows you into the deepest, darkest corners. The echo grows louder, drowning out the world, until only the countdown remains to fill the void. You clutch the device, but it burns with a heat that suggests it is no longer plastic. It feels like flesh, pulsing with a life that is not yours, demanding a debt now due. The walls of your home seem to shrink, closing in as the ringing fills every available space. You try to scream, but the sound of your own voice is already trapped inside a phone. It loops, a broken record of your own demise, playing back the last moments you ever lived. The entity watches from the periphery, a shadow that lacks form but possesses a terrifying, focused intent. You reach for the power button, but your fingers pass through the glass as if it's mist. The digital world has bled into reality, staining the fabric of existence with a dark, permanent ink. There is no escape from the logic of the end, for the end is already inside you. The countdown reaches its final digit, and the silence that follows is heavier than any scream ever. You close your eyes, waiting for the finality that has been promised by the cold, electronic ghost. The phone drops to the floor, yet the ringing continues, vibrating through the floorboards of the house. It is a signal to the others, a beacon marking the spot where another soul has been harvested. The air grows thin, stripped of oxygen by the presence of something that does not need breath. You are a ghost in your own home, watching as your life is erased by a phantom. The phone screen displays a single glowing 0, a final tally of your remaining time on Earth. You wonder if anyone will hear the echo when they eventually find your cold, still, empty shell. The entity moves closer, its presence a freezing wind that extinguishes the last flickering candle of hope. You are no longer the protagonist of your story, but a footnote in an endless, tragic loop. The ringing stops, but the silence is worse, for it confirms that the end has finally arrived. You look at your hands, seeing them fade into the gray static of a dying television screen. The world outside continues, oblivious to the fact that you have been deleted from the grand design. The phone lies silent, a dark mirror reflecting nothing but the void where you once stood tall. Another call begins, somewhere else, for someone else, continuing the cycle of the inevitable, cold, dark end. The cycle is perfect, a machine of death that requires no maintenance and knows no mercy at all. You are gone, and the phone is ready for the next victim in the long, dark line. The screen lights up again. A new number, a new target, a new countdown starting right now. The darkness claims the room, swallowing the last remnants of your existence into the hungry, digital abyss. There is no record of your struggle, no trace of your fear, only the silence left behind. The phone rings, a sharp, piercing sound that cuts through the stillness of the empty, dark house. It is a new voice now, but the tone is the same, cold and detached, and entirely final. The countdown is a law of nature, a gravity that pulls every soul toward the same dark. You are part of the echo now, a whisper in the static that haunts the next poor soul. The phone is a gateway, and you have passed through to the other side of the screen. There is no coming back from the call, for the call is the final word of life. The world keeps turning, but the shadow of the phone call stretches long across the dying day. Every ring is a funeral bell, tolling for those who have not yet realized their time ends. The countdown is the only truth left in a world that has forgotten how to hear silence. Listen closely, for the phone might be ringing for you, and the time is already gone now. The echo of your end is the last thing you will ever hear in this fading world.